Yep, we're recording. We're just going to go. What's
All right.
up, everybody? Lister Games here with Cloud Art or Rulebook Rundowns. It's been a minute since I made a video,
A little bit.
but I couldn't let 2021 go by without a best of 2021 video. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to list off our top 10 each of completed games in 2021, not necessarily released in 2021. So
Definitely not released in 2021.
I have a lot that are released in 2021. It's not fair. I didn't play the new Madden. I couldn't put it on there. Sorry.
Disappointed.
Couldn't do it.
Disappointed.
So mine aren't ranked. I think Cloud Arts are ranked,
They are.
which whatever.
But it's fine. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it's totally fine. If you remember last year's video, which you probably never finished because it was like 48 hours long, this is probably going to be like 25 minutes, I think, at the most.
Probably.
I reserve the right to tell you to shut up.
Yeah. Peanuts wired me up with a taser, so if I talk too long, then I just get zapped, and we don't want that.
No, I mean we do, but it's good TV.
Yeah.
So with that being said,
Sure. Let's
who's going first?
kick it off.
Yeah.
And number 10.
Number 10.
Number 10. Yeah, I'm going to do it in order. So we realized that our lists probably aren't going to have a whole lot of crossover because we didn't play a lot of the same games.
Sure.
But one of them that I played was a surprise hit from the previous year that ended up being my number 2 favorite game last year, I think, was the Astrobot Rescue Mission. And this one's Astro's Playroom, the pack-in game for the PS5. Man, phenomenal. Like, I don't know. If you have a PS5 or when you get a PS5, you have to play it. It's free, comes with the system, and it's incredible. So many cameos of other Sony products and stuff. It was just a delight the entire time.
Well, and it kind of brings back the. I don't want to say brings back, because that's not a truth. Maybe from the Wii, of like, here's a game that shows you what this whole thing does.
Yeah. Like a
'Cause,
big
like,
tech demo.
PS5 does a lot of crazy stuff that you guys may or may not be aware of, but that game accentuates all of it. Shows you all the different things your new controller can do, all that type of stuff. I'm only going to spend a minute on it. It's in my honorable mentions because I knew you'd put it on there.
Nice.
So I thought it would be higher than that, to be honest, because you were into it quite a bit.
I thought so too.
But yeah. So I think it works good with you going at a ranking.
Sure.
Because then I'm not going to blow
Yeah.
your. Well, I might still, huh? Well, I know what not to say.
Yeah.
So if I have to pick a number 10, I just have a list of 10. So I'm a little less prepared, I guess you could say. I'm gonna go with Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory as my number 10 then.
I had this one at the tail end of the last year.
Okay.
So this was like number 5 on my list last year.
So it's on there for a pretty simple reason that, and even though I don't really go back to playing games, I would play that one if I didn't have anything to do. I have such a backlog, so it's kind of a oxymoron, but a game filled with Kingdom Hearts music that plays like a rhythm game is literally tailor-made for me. That's
And there's a lot of
a
music.
lot.
A lot
That
of
game
music.
took me a long time. I did
Yeah.
not expect it to take that long, but it just kind of
I think
kept
there's like
going.
186, 188 tracks,
Something like
And
that.
that's with no DLC. Like, yeah, it took a long time to go through there. And then of course they do the typical Kingdom Hearts thing where they have, all right, here's this game, but then we're gonna have like really important canon story
Yes.
for the last half hour.
tied into a
Right.
music rhythm game of a collection of songs from previous games.
Yep.
That's definitely a Kingdom Hearts thing to do. So, Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory, PS4. I think I played that on. Good game. All right, go.
It was actually 14th last year on my list.
14th.
14th.
Okay.
But I still enjoy it. I actually played it not too long ago because my daughter really likes it. And
Yeah, see,
like,
you get a
pulls
lot
it
of
up.
replay value out of stuff that I would only play once because she sees
true.
it and is like into it,
Yeah,
and it's like, well, I'll just play it again. I'm familiar.
yeah. Astro's
Yeah.
Playroom just got booted up again a couple of days ago.
My kids
because of
do
that.
not care about what I'm playing.
Yeah, that's fair.
Unless I was playing like Roblox.
Yeah.
That didn't happen. So.
All right, my number 9 is one that you haven't gotten to yet because I still have the system, and that is Blood and Truth on the PSVR for PS4.
Yeah, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, this was a surprise for me. Like I knew that it had gotten good reviews and everything going into it, which is why we had picked it up in the first place. But man, was that just such a fun experience. Like I remember finishing that game and then wanting to. I came over and said, "Hey, you got the Oculus? Let's see what kind of shooting games you have can get for it." And like none of it really felt the same.
Right.
Like I don't know what it was. The story was fun. Just dual wielding the guns or having like the handgun on the side and then a larger gun on back. So like using the handguns because they fire fast and everything, and then somebody gets too close, you quick holster the handgun, pull out the shotgun, boom, put the shotgun back because it takes too long to reload, and out comes the pistol again. And like just everything about it, with even reloading, you had to use your other hand to reload whichever gun you were doing. Like even though it was a rail shooter, like you couldn't really control where you were going. It was more of like move to this cover thing or something, like the next section. So you kind of kept you going forward, but it was still like, man, it was so engaging. And there were even story bits that weren't really about shooting, and I was still like enthralled by it with the VR and just everything. It was a surprise, fun game. Blood and Truth.
I think it's hard to find games like that, especially in VR, because there's a lot of shovelware for VR.
Yeah.
So PlayStation's easier because they have like real retail releases, but hearing all the stuff you like on there, I think you're going to have to borrow the Oculus at some point in 2022 and play Resident Evil because it does all that and you can move wherever you want.
Yeah, I'm
it's
into that.
Pretty sick. Blood and Truth.
Yeah, Blood and Truth.
Right. Next one I'll go with, because I know you never played it, is the Demon Souls remake for PS5. So, Demon Souls, From Software, Bloodborne, Dark Souls, all that type of stuff. They remade Demon Souls for PS5, basically built it from the ground up for PS5. And if you know a Souls game, it was well worth it. It was hard as hell, frustrating, but you just don't ever feel the way you feel when you finish a From Software game in any other instance, I guess I can say. I beat a lot of games. I've finished over 750, I think, for the list. And those games just hit different when you're done with them. It's like, wow.
Well, it's like anything. You put a lot of hard work in something. So when you finally see the conclusion of that hard work, there you go.
Yeah. So, I mean, the same game for PS3, but everything looks better, everything works better, everything functions better. Just better. Better.
Better.
Sold me a PS5. That's what I wanted one for.
That's true.
Other than other games that will remain nameless that'll be talked about shortly. Demon Souls Remake. Yeah.
Coming in at number 8 for me is one that just squeaked in. We sort of gave this to me on a technicality because I started it partway through December and could have finished it by the end of December, but I ended up finishing it like on the 3rd because I just didn't have time. And that's the new game on Steam, Inscription. Man, what a trip that game is. It's like a card game, kind of. And
Kind of?
it has roguelike elements, sort of. But the story is just so bonkers. I don't even know where to begin with that. When you first start up the game, you can't select new game. The only option is to continue. So you continue, and it's like it's somebody else's game that you're continuing. But that's actually the start of the game. And just the story and the twists and turns throughout and like learning more about this world that you're in is just it's unlike anything else I've ever played, I feel. And like finishing that up, like, man, this is nuts. Like I want to play it more because the gameplay was really fun, like the card battling stuff. But at the same time, I don't want to because I've experienced the story stuff.
Sure.
And I, like, man,
A lot to be said about a game that kind of shoots it all out the first time and it knows it's doing that. Like,
Yeah.
this is an experience you're gonna have, and
Right.
playing it again's kind of
And it's like quasi horror themed too.
yeah.
Like it looks spooky at the beginning, and then as it goes, it gets less spooky, and then more spooky again, and never anything
Too crazy.
outlandish or anything like that. But yeah, it was great fun. Definitely highly recommend Inscription
Inscription.
on the Steam.
All right, this is getting harder and harder because there's ones I know are gonna happen, but I don't know where they're gonna fall on your list. So I just keep trying to pick things I know he didn't play. Next one I will name is just came out in December, but I managed to finish it before the year was over, and that is Halo Infinite. Got delayed quite a bit. I think it was supposed to originally come out in March or April of 2021, but eventually came out middle of December. And just an awesome experience if you're into the Halo games. Obviously, there's a lot of lore, a lot of story there. This game kind of blew that all up, and well, it continued that, but the gameplay function, it was more of an open world versus like a linear story with missions. There were still story missions, but in between you could kind of go wherever you wanted to, capture bases, save people, look for power ups, that type of thing. Just an all around good experience, you know, and stuff like that in those kind of series that are so way up here tend to not live up to any sort of expectation.
Did it have was it kind of like the Halo ODST open world thing where like it was open world but then you got to a point and then now this kind of starts a level? Or not quite.
A little bigger than that. Like it was kind of open world, but a little secluded on certain things. You could get to wherever you wanted to. It'd take a little bit of work, but this had direct points on the map that you had to go to make that sort of thing happen. But yeah, it was well worth, and something. I mean, other than doing legendary all skulls on campaign runs, I think I would go back and try to get all the achievements. That really makes me not want to do that ever.
Yeah.
Because those are just not fun.
Yeah.
For me,
it's definitely hard to want to go get more achievements when you can't get all the achievements.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because they were popping pretty well, and I was getting some of the harder ones that seemed like really incidental, shoot a grenade out of the air and have it blow up somebody else type stuff, like stuff that's going to happen if you play long enough. But that, if you're not familiar, legendary all skulls on Halo games all have skulls, secret collectibles that unlock some sort of game modifier, like you get less ammo from ammo drops. You have to melee an enemy to get your shield back. Enemies have more health, all of this. And there's like 12 of them usually. So that run you have to turn everything on and beat it on the hardest difficulty, which, as anybody that's played a Halo game can attest, that shit's not fun to begin with. It's
gross.
People that do it, I don't know why. But Halo Infinite.
Too many other games to play.
Yes, that's usually what it comes down to is how much time do I want to spend doing this?
Right.
Not that much.
All right, my number 7 then. We're still not to the games that you've played. Sorry. Number 7 for me was at the beginning of the year, and that is Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. Actually, the only game that I did a review video for this channel.
Oh yeah,
the only review video for this channel. Oh man, but it was a great time. It mixed the Dynasty Warriors formula with Breath of the Wild stuff, and it was a great time. It had neat kind of time travel element to it, since you're playing with like the champions of yesteryear, like the previous Divine Beast driving champions from the Breath of the Wild story, and then the current, like the newer ones, you're playing as both, kind of teaming up. So it was a pretty fun.
Sorry.
Thanks. Pretty fun time travel stuff, and kind of the standard Dynasty Warriors formula: kill a bunch of dudes, get equipment stuff, and monster parts to upgrade this and that and whatever. Bunch of different characters, all with their own special moves, and Yeah, it was a really good time. Played it with the wife for the whole thing, and we 100%ed the game.
I was looking
All the
for.
things.
I wanted to see how many views that video had.
Oh,
Our 2020 video has more views than the Hyrule Warriors video does, which is absolutely insane in my head.
so
Our last year video sucked. It was awful.
is that the
Just
one
look at the picture.
Yeah.
It's just terrible.
I think that was one where the audio wasn't synced up to the video too. So
Correct.
we were at two different places, and
Yeah, that didn't work. So hopefully it works better this time. Let us know what you think. What are we at? 15? Not bad. Not bad.
so far,
So far, so good. All right. So next one, I know you haven't. Well, you've probably played this, but you haven't finished it. What I would consider probably a top 5 Metroidvania ever at this point is Hollow Knight. Hollow Knight, if you're not familiar, is a little bug guy with a big nail that you just kind of go around. If you're Metroidvania familiar, you go find items that unlock paths in other item areas. You can go get those and go backwards, back and forth, blah, 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 blah. This game had such a depth of story and enemies and gameplay that I wasn't ready for. I knew the game existed. I knew anything that gets 18 releases of Definitive Edition and Void Heart Edition, it's usually a good game. But I was just, I played a little bit of it. It's hard. It's kind of boring. It's dark. What? Way off base. I was wrong. I was 100% wrong. I spent a good week and a half, 2 weeks playing that game, and I can't wait for the next one to come out, which I haven't heard anybody talk about in about 10 years, so I'm not sure if that's a thing still.
I keep like hearing about it and then delay and then gone for 6 months and then hearing about it again, and
It's the COVIDs.
So, yeah.
The COVIDs
Who
screwed
knows?
up everything, guys. It screwed all of our things up.
maybe 2022 will be the year of the Silk Song.
I'll go out on a limb and say that if that releases in 22, I guarantee it'll be on our video next year.
Yeah,
'Cause
I'm sure.
There's
I'm
no
sure
way
you
it
will.
can't be good.
And I'll maybe get my delicious last course finally.
Yeah,
The Cuphead
the Cuphead.
DLC is
Yeah,
supposed to
that
be
does
coming out
sound
this
like
year.
that's. We'll see.
That was supposed to be like a 2019 release.
Yeah, like right after we finish the game.
Yeah.
Like a couple months after, we're getting ready. Yeah. I've discovered I hate DLC. My wife pointed out to me because I'm always like, oh my god, Halo came out. I better buy the season pass right now. No. You finish the game so early that the DLC is out 3 months later. You will not care about DLC at that point. And she was 100%
Yep.
correct. So we don't buy DLC anymore.
I learned my lesson from BioShock Infinite.
I don't even think the DLC was that good for that even when it came out. Oh, that had the thing in the beginning though, didn't it? With all the
Yeah,
you get like
where-
84 tonics in the beginning instead of 0.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
that's fun.
I decided I enjoyed the game a little bit after that point, and then I got the season pass and didn't start the game over again like I should have, so I was already past that point.
Sure.
So yeah,
Sure.
bonus for me.
Yay, Cloud Art. All right, Hollow Knight.
Good one.
That is a good one. You should play that.
I should. But instead, I'll go to my number 6 that I played a lot of, and you did not finish, and that is Returnal. Yeah, PS5 exclusive Returnal. I was pretty excited about this game, like the day it came out. Not so much before that, but I think I looked into it like the day it came out and watched a couple people play it and thought, man, this looks pretty good and kind of up my alley. So that one's a third-person shooter, sort of not Metroidvania, roguelike style. So you're going around, kind of trying to solve this unusual story. You more of like wake up at a crash and you don't really know what's happening, so you're out exploring, and you know the story takes twists and turns like most of these do, and but one of the big draws for this game was its difficulty and a lot of different weapons and stuff. And I have a few different friends that played the game, and nobody else that, or at least not among my friends or our friends, have completed the game. But I did manage to go through all of the acts and then the bonus one at the end to see all of the stuff for the game. The only trophies I'm missing are like collect everything, and
Eh.
but man, the game was a lot of fun, and like most roguelikes, once you understand all the enemy attack patterns and everything, it becomes a lot easier to deal with, and you can take on harder enemies with different guns, and getting through all of that was just really satisfying and a really awesome experience for Returnal.
Maybe I should go back. Nice. Okay, next for me, I'm gonna go with yes.
You were a little early.
Yes, for real. I'm gonna go with Resident Evil Village. I played on PS5. That came out in April, I want to say. I don't remember. Continuation of Resident Evil 7, Biohazard. If anybody played that, it kind of went a totally different direction in the series. First person, a lot more horror, a lot scarier, a lot darker, that type of stuff. If you played 5 and 6, definitely turned into a little bit of an action game for a while. Where this and Village were, or 7 and Village were totally not along those lines at all. Probably like to the point where you probably won't even play those two.
Maybe.
Give or take.
Maybe. Not in VR. That's for sure.
Yeah, 7's in VR. I wouldn't recommend that.
No.
That seems awful. But just a really good continuation of a story. You kind of wake up and your baby gets kidnapped and you have to go figure out what's going on, and a crazy monster-filled zombies, things that turn into giant scorpion-looking stuff. You know, the usual, yeah. You know, the lady with the boobs.
Yeah.
That everybody talks about. Let's just say she doesn't look like that forever. Her other form is not as appealing to anyone. Resident Evil Village, if you're into that type of stuff, I like that whole series, other than 6 is kind of garbage, but whatever. I'd recommend definitely trying that out. Yeah.
Like all the rest of them, and you have Umbrella Corps on your need to play Resident Evil stuff.
I mean, it'll happen probably. I'm not going to like it. I can only hope that it's short.
What was that other one? Operation Raccoon City?
Well, those are bad. Those are just really bad.
Oh man, that'll be a struggle. All right, number 5 is an older game. I can't remember when it came out, but I played it this year, and man, am I glad I did. And that is Pyre. That was the second game by second.
I know there's 3,
Yeah.
but I don't know what order they go.
There's 4. Second game by Supergiant Games. First they did Bastion, and then they did Pyre. Pretty sure Transistor. I can't remember if it's Transistor or Pyre. It's been too long. But either way, Pyre was awesome. I remember seeing videos about it a long time ago when it had come out, and it looked like kind of a weird sports type game, and that's basically what the gameplay was like a 3-on-3 get the ball into the other team's goal using special abilities of your team.
I feel like I haven't seen anything for this game because that doesn't sound familiar to me at all.
No, that's what the gameplay is of that game. But the thing that makes it so incredible is the story and the characters, and like all the characterization that they had for everybody, and then kind of the ongoing plot, if you will. Like it's people that have been sentenced to a life of exile, and then if they're able to like defeat all these other teams in this tribunal combat ritual thing, then they can gain redemption and then go back, like leave exile back to the real world, whatever. And so you're trucking through trying to get there, and then they kind of throw a little bit of a curveball when you're at that final thing. Like, hey, here's the deal. Okay, well, I guess we're not done with the game yet. And then you keep going, but then it gets, the story unfolds better and better, and Like there are some pretty hefty decisions that you have to make in the game that affect the entirety of the game, and it is just really good. And the music is incredible, of course, like all of their games.
Yeah, they do a good job there.
Darren Korb is the composer, and just everything is incredible. But the game itself, even if you're not really into like sports arena type stuff, you can like tone down the difficulty for it, and it's easy on the easy stuff.
A volleyball game.
So that is Pyre. Check it out.
Pyre.
Supergiant Games.
Okay. This is the last one that I know you haven't played.
Okay. Good.
I think
my next one. I don't know. if we care about that.
And this was kind of a surprise. Spent a long time. I don't spend a long time with games unless they're very good. I mean, it's kind of duh, but it goes without saying. And this is Yakuza Like a Dragon. If you're familiar with the Yakuza games, best way to describe them is almost like a third-person beat 'em up Saints Row type thing.
Almost like a parody.
Yeah, like it's just
game.
funny. It's super comedy type of thing, but they're usually not fairly short, 10, 15-hour games. This was like a 60-plus hour full RPG, turn-based, crazy, and kind of unexplainable. The story is so all over the place. I don't really remember a whole lot of it. It was a while ago.
What were a couple of the attacks?
Oh, like I know, like they called your main character like the king, and it made like Dragon Quest noises, and there was all sorts of that type of stuff going on, and you had a homeless guy that would like throw up on people and like stun them and give them status effects, and it, all along those types of lines.
You call in people on your phone to
Yeah,
assist.
it was called Pound Mates.
Pound Mates?
Yes. In reference to sort of a, streetwalker hooker type situation. You'd call various, like the giant Chinese dude that wore a diaper. I don't remember what a lot of these guys would do, but I remember spending a lot of time on the game, and that made me really want to put it on here because I think it deserved that. I can remember multiple times Sweetness saying, "Are you still playing this?" Because it was like months. Like I don't have a huge amount of time to play a lot of stuff every day, but I spent a lot of time on that. So I mean, if you're into RPGs at all, I think you owe it to yourself to check that out. And it's worth a playthrough. Hard, but it's worth a playthrough. Yeah. Yakuza Like a Dragon. Don't forget about your Pound Mates.
It looked fun, and I wanted to play it, but I have no background in the Yakuza games. Wanted to play those first, and
there's like 8 of those.
And now they're off Game Pass. So
I guess we're done.
Yeah. Who knows?
28 minutes. Good God. We're flying.
Yeah. Awesome.
This is where he slows down.
Yep. So number 4, should I avoid, because I can skip this one.
Do what you gotta do, bud.
Okay. Number 4, we'll both talk about a little bit, and that is Metroid Dread.
I can't believe you have that at number 4. Kind of insulting.
I had like 3 more games that I had a better experience with.
I also have Metroid Dread on my list, so I will go ahead and gray that out so we don't have to spend double time on it.
Yeah. It was great, and in preparation for Metroid Dread, I played through all of the other Metroid games because I hadn't played through any of them besides Super Metroid, and they were also great.
Even the first one?
I did Zero Mission.
Not all of them.
Well, and I didn't do Metroid 2 because I had played Samus Returns on the 3DS.
I'll give you that one. That's
So
fair. Metroid 2 sucks.
Yeah.
It's hard.
So okay, I did Zero Mission and Fusion, which
Good
I
enough.
hadn't played before.
Good enough.
And Zero Mission made my like top 20. Fusion didn't, because I think I liked Zero Mission just a little bit more than Fusion. But anyway, Metroid Dread was an awesome culmination of all of these games, and especially coming like fresh off of those other games, I could immediately see the influence of any of those onto Metroid Dread, and it was great and unexpectedly difficult. I didn't feel like the main game portion was difficult, but the bosses
Yeah,
were difficult.
I'd agree with that.
Most of the bosses I did not beat on the first try. Definitely not any of the larger bosses. Some of them that are like, it's kind of a mini boss and he just jumps around and attacks, whatever. But like the big screen filling bosses, no, they all had just too big of attacks and just not ready.
They were built in a way that, and I think you could argue that even like Super Metroid and the other ones were like that. They're built in a way that you can't just face tank them and do enough damage to win.
Yeah.
Because they're either in phases where you're not going to be able to do enough damage before that, or there's just stuff that you can't avoid, or you have to be incredibly skilled to avoid.
Right.
I mean, that's the thing about that game that really kind of set a tone for me is I'm a Super Metroid speedrunner, which I'm sure I've said on here before. It was a long wait between Fusion and Dread.
Yeah, we're talking Game Boy Advance.
Yeah, Game Boy Advance to Switch. And for them to be able to kind of hold true the feelings that those games give you is impressive. That's not normal.
Yeah.
Like, new Mario doesn't feel like 25-year-old Mario. Right. Maybe it shouldn't in that way, but it's same thing. New Zelda doesn't feel like old Zelda. This felt like it could have been dumbed down and put on a Super Nintendo and played the right way to a point. Maybe not as flashy enemies and all that type of stuff, but
right. But it has. You can tell where the game came from, and they really did a good job honoring that. Yeah, it was great. I finished the game and then went back and collected everything else to get 100%. Didn't want to go back through and like try to do speed runs or hard mode playthrough because
That's crazy that it has hard mode.
Yeah, and you still have to beat that under like 3 hours or something for all the things, whatever. But it was still great, and like the end sequence was just awesome.
Yeah,
like so cool.
Yeah, I think did I finish it before you? Or
yeah.
Did you okay.
Yeah, you did.
I think I remember saying something like that. Like I think I was on Discord with you and just sitting there staring at it like, holy shit.
Yeah.
This is because I knew you were going to take it right away.
Right.
Play it. Yeah. So how wouldn't I finish it before you? But anyway.
It was great.
Metroid Dread. Well, that was an easy one.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll take one of your knees off. I'm pretty sure
you can only take my number one.
Oh, that's your number one, eh? Yeah. I'll wait, though.
Okay.
That's fine.
Thanks.
That's fair. Because you probably finished this next one in 2020. Hades is my next one on there. I was very late to the party, to say.
I had this on early access on the Steam.
And I'm glad I waited. There was definitely some things that got improved in between then and when I played it. If you're not familiar with Hades, you've probably been living under a rock for the last couple of years. It won a lot of Game of the Year awards. And for a game like that, an isometric roguelike hack and slash to win so many awards that are usually reserved for The Last of Us level type stuff.
And as an indie game.
And an indie game at that.
This was this company's 4th game that they had made.
And I don't have any real complaints about it, other than, I mean, I suppose I could look at my review. It didn't get a 10, which is a whole other conversation.
Oh, yeah.
We could talk about in a different video, which I'm already thinking of. But amazing gameplay, next level story building.
Yeah.
You know, the way that it was put together. Because it's a roguelike, you're going to die a lot. And like every time you die and you get back, everything's different. You talk to people and they talk about different things. It progresses even though you're not progressing, as roguelikes tend to do. But most of them don't do that with story. Like, Isaac's one of our favorite games. Isaac doesn't do that. There is no story, really. There is, but there isn't. There's a main thing, but nothing like this. This was heartfelt, emotional stuff, family stuff that you're trying to get through, which most good games have one of those. This has...
Even with, like, some of the bosses that you defeat, like, you then see them in your home hub area when you're done, and they're like, man... That was a good fight. I'm gonna get you next time.
Right.
Like, what?
Like, why though? Just let me keep going. But in that, with the gameplay, different weapons, different abilities, so much stuff to unlock and change your game with. I
Yeah.
would go back to that game. Again, I have a pretty hard stance on progression. You know, I'm a
That
very let's experience new things type of guy. But that game could, I have a lot more I can do in that game.
that one, yeah, that one's really tough because just finishing. So how we normally treat roguelikes for our list is finishing a run constitutes completing the game. For putting it on
Or
the list.
beating the game.
Beating the game.
Yeah.
Where Hades kind of differs is that part of the main story is like completing a run, and each time you complete a run, it gives you more story up until you complete 10 runs,
Yeah.
and then it alters the game. And then you have different things that you're completing the game for, and then there's like another 30 wins you need in order
Yeah.
to see all the stuff. Like there is so much for that
Yeah.
that it almost feels like we're shortchanging it, even though it's obviously really high up in our standings and a game that we really like. So maybe if we can just get a little better at it to not take an hour and a half per run,
Yeah.
then that would help us get back there to see all that. Because man, there's so much dialogue
Right.
in between runs, and like the story's good and the characters are really interesting, and I don't know. I wanna go back to it, but like you said, there's just so many other things that come
Yeah,
up.
I mean, that's the hard part nowadays, guys. And anybody that's as old as me, I mean, you're probably in the same boat. You didn't have access to this much stuff then. So, like, even if you own 0 physical games, and you can spend, let me just run a number in my head. Let's say $30 a month. If you have a Xbox One or a Series X and a PS4 or a PS5, you literally have access to probably 800 games that you can play. And not just like Joe Blow's shovelware that's on here for free, like stuff that's not even on either ones of our lists. Like Halo Infinite was an Xbox Game Pass game. Forza Horizon 5 that I finished is not on my list, incidentally. Was a Game Pass game. You just didn't.
And Yakuza Like a Dragon's on Game
That was
Pass.
also, I think I played that physical.
Yeah, you
I
got it
that for
physical, but
Christmas.
it's on Game Pass.
Well, like, I can remember being younger, having just Super Nintendo, and when I got Final Fantasy 3. The reason I know so much more than anyone you know about that game is because that was the only game I had.
Yep.
You learned there was nothing. What else are you gonna do?
Yep.
There was no, whatever. Move on to the next Final Fantasy like it is now. So it's a tough part of the list. I know you probably think of me as a certain way I do things, but that thought is not lost on me. I don't know. I feel like I'm gonna miss the next thing, which is probably a bad way to outlook on that type of stuff. But how many do you have left? You probably have 4.
I've got 3.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. My number 3 was actually a game from 2018.
Oh, I didn't play games back then.
Yeah. And I finally got around to it and put it on the list, and that is God of War.
Oh yeah,
The 2018 God of War. Man, that was an incredible game.
yeah, yeah.
Like I mean pretty much from start to finish, I was enthralled the whole time. I didn't want to stop.
Yeah.
I had kind of waited on some of these single player story games until I had the PS5 just for load time purposes, and I mean it certainly helped. That's for sure.
Oh yeah.
But man, it was so good. Like I don't know. The story was unexpected for me because I didn't really know anything going in besides it's God of War but Norse.
Well, it's kind of like we were talking about Resident Evil earlier. That took a whole new direction, and nobody really knew until it came out how that's gonna go. Because if you know God of War, old ones are just mash the square button
linear
for 5 hours, and kill a lot of things in a cool way. Whereas This is kind of mash the square button for a longer time and kill a lot of cool things, but there is a lot of layers underneath it now.
Yeah, and it has an open world setting, so you can kind of go wherever you want. I mean, within the standard trope of you don't have this weapon to get through this area, so you have to go do this other thing. So it sort of still takes you in a linear fashion, but it's in the guise of an overworld area, and it was a blast the whole way through. And then like even how it ended and everything, like, oh, God of War Ragnarok's coming out soon. I'm on board.
Yeah,
I'm kind of glad that it took me 3 extra years to play the game, so now the
It's
next
fair.
game is going to
It's
come
not-
out like this year instead of having to wait 4 years for it. So
There's not a ton of day one purchase games for me anymore,
yeah,
but that is definitely
That's-
I want to play that as soon as it's physically available to play.
yeah, I'm pretty much on board with
Yeah.
that at this point too. The downside is though I went from that to Horizon Zero Dawn, and they're very similar
Very much.
feel, but God of War just had me more,
Mhm.
and so I wasn't able to finish Horizon Zero Dawn because I couldn't get into it.
You know
as
what's
much.
interesting? I went from Breath of the Wild to Horizon Zero Dawn,
Yeah,
like the day after.
oof,
That was bad.
yeah.
And then I went to Near Auto Tomato after Horizon Zero Dawn.
And then
It
you're
did
like,
not
I
have.
give up
It
on
had
games.
no chance whatsoever of going past the 10-minute mark.
Yeah,
You need to go back and play that. That was actually one of the things they
Nier?
showed.
Auto Tomato.
No, for the PSVR 2.
Oh,
The
Horizon Zero Dawn.
there's a Horizon standalone Horizon VR game that's going to be on there,
Mm.
and it looks amazing.
Nito Burrito.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I only have 2 more, and one of them matches your number 1.
So do the other. I'll do my number 2, then we'll share the number 1.
Okay, so my number 2, or the second one I have left, we'll say, because it's probably not number 2 overall, was a little bit of a surprise. Also a Game Pass game, and that is Cyber Shadow.
Hmm.
That game was sick.
Yeah.
Harkens back to old Ninja Gaiden games for the NES, kind of the side-scrolling ninjutsu type situation, but with 2021 tech. We'll say like there's a lot more to the story rather than just kind of go right and beat a couple bosses here and there. It's almost like Metroidvania, like you can get stuff and go back and kind of unlock other things. Incredibly difficult. It's to be expected. I think they took a lot of information from original Ninja Gaidens and wanted you to kind of feel that same way. But
It felt like a more difficult Messenger.
fair. Yeah, I do put those two in kind of the same vein. I haven't finished Messenger. I know the things about that. That game definitely has a much bigger swing
Yeah.
at a certain point
Sure.
versus this. This is pretty, I don't want to say standard, because the bosses are pretty crazy in that game with the abilities and everything like that. Did you finish that game?
No, I did like 4 or 5 levels, and then I just had it kind of on the back burner, and on the computer I was playing it, and then just
Right.
didn't play it anymore.
That's fair. We had a couple Discord hangs in a row, and that's when I finished it on
Sure.
Game Pass PC, I think, at that point. But Cyber Shadow, definitely worth checking out. I have the hiccups now. I don't know how that happened, but anyway, go ahead with your numero dos.
My number 2 of the year,
Water.
I now don't remember. Oh yeah, was
How did you?
what was actually the first game outside of Astro's Playroom that I played on the PS5, because that was the game that I got with the PS5, and that was the Spider-Man Miles Morales.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. I dig
Put
me some
Spider-Man on the
Spider-Man.
list last year.
No, I think it would have been the year before. I don't remember when that one was,
No,
but
I think we did one.
yeah, we didn't do one for 2019. But either way, the Spider-Man game was awesome, and Spider-Man Miles Morales just took that and continued being awesome. And even though he is also a Spider-Man, he's not the same Spider-Man, and
boy.
it really felt like that in this.
Are we going MCU right now?
Miles has not shown up in the MCU. His uncle has, played by Donald Glover.
Okay.
Yeah. But he was the one in Enter the Spider-Verse,
Didn't see
that
that.
animated movie.
Oh no. Okay, I see what you're saying.
That's Miles
Yes.
Morales.
Yes.
Yeah,
I'm familiar.
there you go. So he, like, his story and everything is a little bit different from Peter Parker's, and they really did a good job of having that, like, Miles character in this game, and like really differentiating him from Peter Parker. Even though it kind of had started off with like Peter had trained him some, or you like go on a mission with Peter and he's kind of doing the training thing, and then Peter has to leave, so you're the one that's watching over the city.
So that's a different game
Yeah.
completely, right?
Yep.
The way they kind of paint it is, it seems like you're going to do a lot of the same thing that you did in PS4 one, but you're a different guy.
I think initially it was advertised as an expansion,
Yeah.
and then it turned into like a standalone expansion, and then it was more of like a sequels, a mini sequel game.
Yeah.
So it's not quite as long as like the first game, but it still is a pretty hefty game in its own right. And just swinging around the city, and he does like different tricks in the air than Peter Parker does. Like, he just is a different person.
Yeah.
And it was a blast to play. Such a good time. I almost want to play it again. Like, play through the first Spider-Man game again.
Well, yeah, maybe I'll play that while you're here.
That'd be cool. I'd dig that. So number 2 was the first full game I played on the PS5. That was Spider-Man Miles Morales.
So I think at this point, holy shit, 47 minutes. Escalated quickly. Less than an hour. We'll be out in an hour.
Yep.
We both have the same one left. I'm 99.9% sure.
Yep.
We have a couple honorable mentions. The way that we do this is basically go on our spreadsheet and just copy everything finished in 2021. You have a big list on a spreadsheet. You just kind of read out. Like, I finished both Angry Birds games last year. I don't give a shit about those. Those aren't. They just needed to be cataloged. We'll say that's kind of a lot of times I complete stuff that just needs to be cataloged.
I did Metal Slug 1 through 6.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, there was a huge pile of forget what it was, but is it on here? Mario, Mass Effect, and Mega Man.
Oh man.
So like Super Rush, the golf game, the Mario Party game, all 3 legendary editions of Mass Effect, Mega Man 6, and Mega Man X3. It was all red. No. Good games, nonetheless, but not deserving. So you go through that and you bring it down, and I brought mine down to, I think, 21, 23 games. Yours was 21, maybe?
Yep.
And then from there, you pull your top 10 and a couple 3 honorable mentions at this point. I have 2 left, since one of mine was on your list. So you go ahead with your first one.
My first one that I finished the whole thing in was Assassin's Creed Valhalla. That was the one that I was kind of surprised didn't make my top 10 when putting this all together. I think maybe because I spent like 5 hours playing the game, and at that point I had some of the best stuff and was just kind of like, okay, let's get to the end of the game, that sort of thing. But it was a blast to play, and I very much enjoyed it. It didn't really feel like an Assassin's Creed game because you just went into battle with everybody, but it was a really cool Viking game.
Yeah,
I
that's
digged
fair.
it.
That was a 20 game. That come out. I think that came out like
Yeah,
when the Xbox
I think I
came
played
out.
it. I was playing it over the like December to February or something.
That was the first game I got for my Series X.
Okay.
So I think I played it through there. This one I keep mentioning it because it's a video we did too. Donut County. Donut County is just a funny game.
That was number 15 on my
Okay.
list.
So if you have Game Pass, or it's probably on Steam for cheap, or whatever you have, spend a couple hours and play Donut County. It's worth it. It's funny. You probably won't go back and play it again, but it's
unless you have kids.
It'll stick with you. You put stuff in the holes. That's all I'm gonna tell you. Just go put them in holes. That's good.
Yep.
Cool.
That's one that my daughter likes to go back to. So I've experienced more than I probably should have of that game. I definitely have played through it at least 3 times myself.
Right.
But my 6-year-old daughter's played through the whole game.
Then,
so that's
accessible.
Yes, it's a good time. Cool. I don't have to do that one. Then I'll go for.
Was that one of your honorable mentions?
Sure.
Kinda.
Yeah. Already said Metroid Zero Mission. Just Shapes and Beats. Finally got around to that one this past year.
I forgot about that game completely.
And because I had heard good things about it, rhythm game and avoidance stuff, and I like both of those things.
Yeah.
So I mean, the game seemed right up my alley, and it was. Some of the levels were really difficult, and especially the new DLC stuff. Some of that was
the Mortal Kombat song.
Oh, that song's really hard.
Yeah.
But it's a really cool game. It's just listening to some cool electronic style music and avoiding pink stuff on the screen. Just Shapes and Beats.
My last honorable mention's really weird. I don't know if you were here ever when I played this game. Maybe you were. Boyfriend Dungeon.
I was here that whole day.
Yeah, okay.
That was a
thought
one-sitting game.
Yeah, so it's a dating sim game and a hack and slash game in one, where the guys that you're trying to date are the weapons that you use.
People.
Whatever. The people you try to date. It's definitely very open. What's the woke word for what the game is? Woke. That's probably pretty accurate. It doesn't dance around any of the current tropes that a lot of people have issues with nowadays. It just slams right through all those while being incredibly hilarious and very fun to play. I never thought I'd recommend a game named Boyfriend Dungeon, but you should definitely check out Boyfriend Dungeon.
I think one of the things that kind of got me immediately on that game were at the very beginning of like, you can select your gender, and they have a lot of different options for that. It's not just male, female, non-binary, gender fluid, like any of that stuff. Like, well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then they also had here's a little like a trigger warning almost, and you can disable it if you want, but we've designed the game for you to get phone calls from your mom that are like supportive phone calls. Is this a feature that you want on there?
Yeah.
Like, well, that's odd, but kind of cool that they included something like that, because some people that could be an awful thing for them.
That could be a thing.
Just it was really neat to see something so, that same word that you're looking for.
Woke.
I don't think that's the one.
That one's got a bad connotation to it, but very with it, maybe.
Progressive.
There you go. That's what I wanted too. Yeah. That's perfect. Boyfriend Dungeon.
Boyfriend Dungeon.
You got one more?
Yeah, I got one more. We'll do number 11, because this was kind of a surprise. It was a PS5 exclusive, and you had to play 2-player, and it was Operation Tango. That was one of the PlayStation Plus games that was for free at one point. It made the short list.
It did.
That's awesome.
Call that a win for you.
Yeah, I used to be all about the multiplayer games. Like co-op multiplayer stuff was my jam back in the day when I played co-op multiplayer games with friends. And as I kind of got older and played more games with and around P-Note, it became more of like, let's just play single player games, but next to each other. So
I don't know what you mean.
Operation Tango was one where you had to have somebody else, and each of you have a different role that you're playing as, helping the other person. Like, one person's a spy, the other person's a hacker, and you're trying to get through and progress through the levels, whatever. And it's one of those kind of that's becoming a thing where you're supposed to not see the other person's screen and just communicate with them, and to get through the puzzles and everything. And it was a blast, even though we sat next to each other, and there were a couple puzzles where I'm like, I don't know how to describe this thing. Just look at my screen for a second, and that was fine. But all in all, it was a really great
Yeah,
experience.
that was a fun
I
game.
really liked it.
It was a fun game. All right. So the last game on both our lists, if you recall, talking about Astro's Playroom, games that really use everything that a system can do, be it controller functions, accessibility, graphics, whatever, powerful thing. This game, nobody talks about this game. I'm going to preface with that. I don't know why.
I don't know why. When it came out, it was all anybody could talk about.
And
They're
then, like,
this
2
is
days
why you
after.
buy a PS5.
And that game is Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. I think we both got this the day that we could get this.
Yep.
I think I had 2 copies of it. I don't know how that works, but whatever. Fun to sell it for more than you paid for it when it shows up from Amazon.
Yeah.
But I think I can speak for both of us. We've both played all of the Ratchet and Clank games forever, all the way back to the PS2 days. And this game is better than all of those. Is kind of the way to say it. I mean, it's a typical Ratchet and Clank adventure through space, planets, and all that, except it isn't. There's dimensional counterparts named Rivet and Kit. And the way the two stories interweave and interact with each other is a level they haven't reached in storytelling. They always have a pretty humorous, funny story.
Yeah.
It's usually more about the guns and the gameplay with those types of games. But this game was the whole package. This was a AAA, knock it out of the park. We just made a shit ton of money game. Like, no other.
Yeah, it was absolutely incredible, like, the whole way through. I mean, especially, standout performance by Jennifer Hale, which she always does anyway, but she voiced Rivet.
He knows everybody.
Yeah, most people will know her as the female Shepard in Mass Effect. She has a little bit of a different tone in this one, but
that's fair.
Man, just everything about it is so good. I played the game, and then my daughter was interested in the game, so I played it through again with her, and then after I finished the game for me, I started a new game to get all the extra stuff in the new game plus, and then same thing with her playthrough, and then I played through again on like the harder mode, and then speed ran the game a few times. Like, man, I love it.
There's not much more you can ask for a game, and to me, it's always a glowing recommendation that you can literally use and abuse a game to death and play and do everything in there, and all you want to do when you're done is do it again.
Play it again.
I mean, there's not a lot of stuff that comes out. They don't make games like that anymore.
Yeah.
Games are designed on how can we get your money from you a couple months from now and keep you playing it type of thing.
But no DLC. Like, it was a fully enclosed story. I mean, it continued the story from the Ratchet and Clank Future games, I think.
Yeah, I think. Right.
So it was technically after A Crack in Time, because I don't think Into the Nexus is part of that same canon. And then the PS4 reboot in 2016 was not
original.
Of the original, was not part of the same thing either. That was more for the movie, but it just, I feel like you didn't even necessarily have to have that prior knowledge. It probably would help with some of the characters.
Yeah, you know who some of the characters are.
But
that's really all it is.
It's enough by itself.
And I think they kind of designed like that, because even like the original games, then the future games, and then they are connected, but you don't need to know anything about that type of stuff. It's like a Zelda. You don't need to know what happened in Zelda 2 to play Ocarina of Time or something. Yeah. Well, we're gonna clock in just under an hour. It's not bad.
Yeah.
Not bad at all. What did you guys play last year? Is there anything we missed?
Let us know.
Let me know. Let him know. Let us know.
Yep.
We got a Discord. I don't know if I'll post it because I hate everybody, but
probably not. But put in the comments.
Put in the comments.
If we start a thread in the comments and stuff, maybe we'll bring you into the Discord, and then you can we can talk about games all the time. 'Cause
All the time.
that's all that we talk about
That is pretty much all we talk
all the
about.
time.
Listing games, racing games, speedrunning games.
I don't even know
buying
his
games.
last name, but
Fair.
I've watched him play
Games.
lots of video
Lister
games.
games.
Oh, right. That's right. I remember now.
Incidentally, while I was looking up Lister games on YouTube, since I wasn't signed in, there's like 5 of them. So that's fun.
How dare they?
Anyway, I'm Pino at the Lister. This is Cloud Art. Welcome back to YouTube.